Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you guys my updated Fluffal deck profile. This is absolutely one of my favorite decks of all time. It was actually one of the first good decks I played. That wasn't something that I threw together on a schoolyard. But without saying all too much, I do want to quickly go over this deck because, as I said, it's one of my favorites, and yeah, that's really about it. Starting off, we do run 3 copies of Fluffal Dog. Fluffal Dog says that whenever this card is normal or special summoned, you can add 1 Edgem Sabers or 1 Fluffal monster from your deck to your hand, except for Fluffal Dog, that is a once per turn. Continuing on, we do run 3 copies of Fluffal Penguin. Fluffal Penguin just says that during your main phase, you can special summon 1 Fluffal monster from your hand, except Fluffal Penguin. So, of course, the main thing is you want to be able to normal summon Penguin, special summon Dog, Dog Search, which is just really, really good. Then, Fluffal Penguin also has the effect of if this card is used as a fusion material and sent to the graveyard, you can draw 2 cards and then discard 1. So that way you can be able to draw into some other cards that you need while getting rid of any bricks that you might have in your hand. Continuing on, we do run 2 copies of Fluffal Bear. Fluffal Bear just says you can discard this card from your hand to be able to set Toy Vendor from your deck to your side of the field, which is just really good to be able to start all your plays, especially when you run 2 copies of Fluffal Wings. Fluffal Wings just says that while this card is in the graveyard, you can banish this card as well as any other Fluffal monster in your graveyard. Then you can draw 1 card, destroy a copy of Toy Vendor on your side of the field, draw another card, and then the really good part about this deck is that Toy Vendor says that when it's destroyed, you can search for a Fluffal or a Edgem Sabers, which is just really, really good. Continuing on into the one of Stu and 1 copy of Fluffal Owl. Fluffal Owl just says that whenever this card is normally special summoned, you can add 1 polymerization from your deck to your hand, or you can also have the effect on this card that says that you can pay 500 life points to fusion summon using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. You can only use 1 effect per turn and only once that turn. Honestly, I think that this card is just really good at 1, and I just think that if you're not playing it, you really should look into it. Continuing on, I do run 1 copy of Fluffal Octopus. Fluffal Octopus, the main use of this is that if this card is sent to the graveyard as a fusion material for a fusion summon of a Frightful Fusion monster, you can target up to 2 of your banished monsters, return them to the graveyard. And this card is actually just really good because we do banish a bunch of our cards, especially with the copy of Frightful Fusion, which we will go over in just a moment. But this will allow you to be able to refresh your graveyard with your Edgem Sabers, which is just really, really good. Continuing on, we do run 1 copy of Fluffal Dolphin. Fluffal Dolphin just says that you can target 1 Toy Vendor in your graveyard, set it, and if you do, send 1 Fluffal monster or 1 Edgem Sabers from your deck to the graveyard. So therefore, this card can easily just send your Edgem Sabers or even your Fluffal Wings if you have no other way to really get into that. So this card is just really, really good for that. Then this card also says that if this card is sent to the graveyard as a fusion material for a fusion summon, you can shuffle into the deck 1 of your fusions or polymerization spells that is banished or in your graveyard. You can only use each effect once per turn. So this card is just mainly used so that way you can be able to reset your Toy Vendor. Also, it is a level 4 water, which will come up, and I will show you guys where that comes up later on. Personally, I run 1 copy of Fluffal Cat because I just find that Fluffal Cat is just really good to be able to recycle polymerization, because this card just says that if this card is sent to the graveyard as a fusion material for a fusion summon, you can target 1 polymerization in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. So therefore, you can easily just fuse off the cat and any of your other cards into something like, let's say, Kraken, and then just add back polymerization, and then you can immediately activate it once again to go into your Sabertooth, bringing back out Kraken, which is just absolutely insane. Of course, I will go over these cards later on in the video. Continuing on into the Edgems, we do run 3 copies of Edgem Chain. Edgem Chain just says that when this card declares an attack, you can add 1 Edgem Chain from your deck to your hand. We don't really use this effect all that much. The main effect that we do use is that if this card is sent to the graveyard from either your hand or the field, you can add 1 Frightful card from your deck to your hand. You can only use 1 effect per turn, and only once that turn. However, really, if you're going to be activating this effect to search, then you're pretty much good where you are. Continuing on, I do run 1 copy of Edgem Sabers. Edgem Sabers is just really good because, as well as it of course being one of the main cards you're going to use for your fusion summons, this card can easily summon itself back from the graveyard by taking 1 of the cards in your hand and putting it back on top of your deck. This card also has some really good importance with some of the cards coming up later on this list that I will tell you guys in just a moment, but this card is just really, really good. And then I do run the one copy of Edge Scythe. Edge Scythe used to be really good for this deck because it allowed you to play more on your opponent's turn. However, with this build, you can easily just play on your opponent's turn, destroy a bunch of their cards. So really, I think just one copy of Scythe is fine. But pretty much what this card does is, during your opponent's main phase, you can reveal this card from your hand, fusion summon one Fright for a fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters in the hand or field as fusion material, including this card. So this card is just really, really good for if you need to quickly pop a card with another one that I'll show you guys in just a moment, of course. Continuing on, I do run 2 copies of Eldritch the Golden Lord. The reason why we run Eldritch the Golden Lord is because with Toy Vendor, it allows you to discard a card. So if you discard the Eldritch, you can easily just pop your Toy Vendor to summon this back, and of course be able to search off of the Toy Vendor, which is just absolutely insane. Continuing on, I do run 1 copy of Fright for Meister, as well as 1 copy of Lilith, Lady of Lament. So Fright for Meister says that you can tribute 1 level 4 or lower Fright for, Fluffal, or Edget monster, and then special summon from your deck 1 Fiend monster with the same level, but with a different name. So of course, as I said, we do run the Edget Sabers. So we can, if we have Meister on field, we can special summon Sabers, activate the effect of Meister to tribute the Sabers to summon out Lilith, Lady of Lament. Lilith, Lady of Lament says that if this card is normal summoned, the original attack becomes 1000. However, that doesn't really matter because this card also says that quick effect, you can tribute 1 dark monster, reveal 3 normal traps from your deck. Your opponent randomly chooses 1 for you and you can set it on your field, then shuffle the rest back into the deck. So the main use for this, of course, is you're going to summon this off of Meister by tributing Sabers. Then you're going to tribute the Lilith to reveal, of course, your 3 copies of Necrofusion. Necrofusion says that you can fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your graveyard face down, but it cannot attack this turn. So the main use for this is you want to be able to load up your graveyard with a bunch of Fluffals as well as your copy of Edge Sabers. So that way you can activate this, go into your copy of Fright for Tiger, which I'll go over in just a moment on why this is so insane with this play, in, of course, just a moment. Continuing on, we do run 3 copies of Toy Vendor. Toy Vendor just says that once per turn you can discard 1 card, draw 1 card, and then you can show it. If it's a Fluffal monster, you can special summon 1 monster from your hand. It does not have to be a Fluffal monster, you can just special summon any monster from your hand. Otherwise, discard the card you drew, and this card says that if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 Edge Sabers or Fluffal from your deck to your hand. So that's just really, really good. We also do run 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods, just so that way we can actually extend our Toy Vendor, because this card plus the Toy Vendor is just a Rhoda for any Fluffal or Edge Sabers in your deck, which is just absolutely insane. Continuing on, we're going to run 3 copies of Fright for Patchwork. This card should only be played in this deck. Branded players, stop. Just, for me, I don't want this card getting banned because of y'all. We fought hard for this card. But this card just says you can add 1 Edge monster and 1 polymerization from your deck to your hand. So pretty much you do want to be able to activate like Patchwork to search out your copy of Chain and a copy of polymerization. And then you want to fuse off the polymerization, or you want to activate polymerization, fusing off Chain or any of your other cards to go into one of your Frightfurs. And then with Chain effect, which this is just really cool that you can do this. Because it says that you can just search for any Frightfur card, you can actually search Fright for Meister, and this is how you actually get your play started, just off of Patchwork and any other Fluffal monster. I just quickly wanted to go over that for you guys, just to show you guys how that kind of works out. Continuing on into the fusion cards, we do run 3 copies of Polymerization, just to be able to fuse our monsters. Then we run 1 copy of Fright for Fusion. Fright for Fusion says you can fusion summon 1 Fright for Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your field or graveyard. You can activate 1 per turn. Then to wrap up the deck, we do run 1 copy of Fright for Repair. Fright for Repair just says you can target 1 Fright for Fusion monster in your graveyard, return it to the extra deck, and then you can special summon 1 Fluffal or Edge monster from your graveyard. So this does allow you to be able to summon back something like Penguin to allow you to special summon a monster from your hands, or just pretty much any other card, which is just really cool. Then this card also says you can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon 1 Fluffal or Edge monster from your hands, and you can only use 1 Fright for Repair effect per turn, only once that turn. So really, this card is just really good to be able to continue your plays in the grind game. But with that being said, that's going to be it for the main deck. Let's quickly go ahead and look at that extra deck. So for the extra deck, we do run 2 copies of Fright for Sabretooth. Fright for Sabretooth says that when this card is fusion summoned, you can target 1 Fright for monster in your graveyard, special summon it, and then all Fright for monsters you control gain 400 attack. If this card was fusion summoned by using 3 or more fusion materials, it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect. So the fusion materials for this is 1 Fright for fusion monster, plus 1 or more Fluffal or Agent monsters. So pretty much the main thing with this is you want to go into your copy of Fright for Kraken, which Fright for Kraken I will go over real quick as well. The materials for it is 1 Agent monster plus 1 Fluffal monster. It says once per turn you can target 1 monster your opponent controls, send it to the graveyard, and then this card cannot attack directly the turn this effect is activated. This card also says that this card can make a second attack during each battle phase, and once per turn at the end of the battle phase, if this card battled, you can change this card to defense position. So the main play with this is you want to go into your copy of Fright for Kraken, use Fright for Kraken's ability to pop your opponent's monster, then you want to fuse off the Kraken into Sabretooth, bringing back out the Kraken to either pop another card, or you can use it for the double attack direct. Also, one thing that I also really want to point out to you guys is because this card says all Fright for monsters you control gain 400 attack, this becomes a 2800 and this becomes a 2600. So therefore 26 twice, that's 52. And then you hit this for 28, that's 8000 exact for game. So this is just really fun to help clear out games. Continuing on, I do run 2 copies of Fright for Tiger. Fright for Tiger says that when this card is a fusion summon, you can target cards on the field up to the number of fusion materials used for its fusion summon, destroy them, and then all Fright for monsters you control gain 300 attack for each Fluffal and Fright for monster you control. You can only control 1 Fright for Tiger at a time, but of course the materials for this is 1 copy of Edge of Sabers plus 1 or more Fluffal monsters. So as I said with this deck, if you can set up Sabers in the graveyard plus a bunch of Fluffals, you can straight up just pop your opponent's entire field and it'll help you win your game, which is why we run 2 copies as well as the Necrofusion. But yeah, that's just one of the really cool things that this deck can do. Continuing on, we do run 1 copy of Fright for Wolf. Fright for Wolf just says that for the materials, it's 1 Edge of Sabers plus 1 or more Fluffal monsters. This card says that it can attack up to the number of monsters used for its fusion summon. So if you use, let's say, Sabers plus 9 Fluffals, it can just attack 10 times per game, which is just really, really fun to do to your opponent. And then to wrap it up, we do run 1 copy of Fright for Cruel Whale. This is it for the fusion monsters, of course. This card's requirements is just 1 Agent monster plus 1 Fluffal monster. This card says that if this card is fusion summoned, you can destroy 1 card on both players' fields, which is just really good to be able to pop cards. This card also says that once per turn, quick effect, you can target 1 fusion monster you control, and then you can send 1 Fright for card from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard, except Fright for Cruel Whale, and if you do that, targeted monster gains attack equal to half of its original attack until the end of turn. So therefore, let's say that I activated Cruel Whale effect targeting itself. I can send the wolf to the grave. This card would then gain 1300 attack, which is just pretty good to be able to get over big monsters, as well as to stop big attacks coming your way. Continuing on into the Xyz monsters, we do run 1 copy of Bahamut Shark, as well as 1 copy of Totally Awesome. Bahamut Shark just says that once per turn, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card to special summon 1 rank 3 or lower water Xyz monster from your extra deck. This card cannot attack for the rest of the turn. So the main ways that we make Bahamut Shark in this deck is we have, of course, the Fluffal Penguin. Fluffal Penguin can special summon the Fluffal Dolphin, which will then overlay into Bahamut Shark. Because Bahamut Shark does require 2 water monsters, then you can detach 1 material from this card to special summon Totally Awesome. And then if your opponent activates a spell or trap card, you can just tribute the Totally Awesome to set it to your side of the field, which is just really, really fun to do to your opponent. Continuing on with the Xyz, we do run 1 copy of Abyss Dweller to lock out your opponent's graveyard, as well as 1 copy of Baguska the Terribly Tired Tapir, just because this card can pretty much shut down your opponent's entire plays just by summoning a defense. If they can't get into link monsters, then they kind of just lose their turn. And then to wrap up the Xyz monsters, I do run 1 copy of Hope Arbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy, because we do run a bunch of level 8s in our extra deck, and this just allows us to be able to negate a spell card, which is just really, really cool, as well as being able to detach a material from this card to change the attack of one of your opponent's monsters to this card, kind of like a lightning rod effect, to be able to protect one of your other monsters. Then to wrap up the extra deck, we do run only 2 link monsters, one of those being of course Cross Sheep. The main reason why we run the Cross Sheep is because while this card is on the field, if a monster is summoned to a zone that this card points to, you can apply one of the effects depending on if it's pointing towards a fusion monster in this case, which is what it mainly is you can then special summon a level 4 or lower monster from the graveyard. So let's say you were to go into Kraken, you can then summon out, for instance, Dolphin. Or if you already had a Kraken on field and you were to special summon a Dolphin or whatever to your side of the field, then the Cross Sheep will let you summon out another level 4 from the graveyard, which is just really fun. Really cool that it can do that, and I absolutely love this card in Fluffal. And then to wrap it up, we do run 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix. This can literally be anything. However, with the way that this deck runs, I kind of think that running the 1 Nightmare Phoenix to be able to pop like any floodgates is just really, really good for this deck. But with that being said, guys, that's going to be about it for the video. If you guys enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like. Comment down below what you guys think of this deck profile, as well as what you guys would do to make it even better. But with that being said, guys, that's going to be about it. See ya.